Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about what you need to do after graduating from your psychology undergraduate degree in order to become a clinical psychologist. So let's get into it. So the first thing that you need to do after graduating is to take a break. Yes, you heard me right. You deserve some time off after 3 years of work and endless lectures. You need a break. Go live your life, have a summer of fun and just relax. Listen, it's not a race, and I know sometimes it can kind of feel like, oh, like I want to get onto the doctorate at this age, or I want to have X amount of experience by this age. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what plan you have for yourself, you cannot tell what the future will hold. So prioritize like your current self-care needs, and honestly, taking a break before even looking at applications or getting experience will set you up to be in a really good mindset before kind of going through all of the rejection which is inevitable in this career. Now the second thing I want you to do is get realistic with your expectations. Many people think that after graduating, an assistant psychologist role is the pinnacle of a psychology graduate job, which I guess in some ways it is, because you're working alongside a clinical psychologist and the work that you do highly replicates what you would be doing on training, just on a lower level. That's what I think anyway. However, an assistant psychologist role is not the only job you can do or have to do in order to get onto the clinical doctorate, but I'll get into that later. Now, most psychology graduate jobs are very, very competitive, especially assistant psychologist jobs, and that's not to scare you away, because I managed to do it and so have loads of other people. But that's not to say that you should go in blindly and think that you will apply for a job, get an interview and then get the job. It doesn't go like that. You may be jobless for a while, or you may have to work a job that you don't want to be in, but you need to focus on ways in which you can get relevant experience, because relevant experience will allow you to get those psychology related jobs, which will then allow you to be better prepared to apply for the doctorate. So what is relevant experience? Well, relevant experience is any kind of job that will allow you to tick off the person specification points that your desired job states. So a common person specification point that I've seen in many AP job adverts is having an understanding of mental health conditions. So in order to fulfill that person specification point, you could look at jobs such as a healthcare assistant or a support worker, and that would give you that person specification point. Generally what I say is any kind of role in the care sector will give you the skills needed, and typically the roles where you're kind of at the front line with the clients or the residents that you're working with. So that's why I think it's really important, especially if you're stuck between jobs or if you can't get your foot in the door for a career in psychology, then it's very important to look at the person specification for jobs that you can't even apply to yet. So say if the goal is to get an AP role, then look at an AP job advert and look at the person specification. Go through that person specification and see how many of the person specification points you can tick off. Now, as a rule of thumb, I like to say that if you can tick off at least 80%, then you should be good to go, and like just try to apply for the job, because sometimes they will give a bit of leeway. But if you have less than 80%, then maybe think about the jobs that will fulfill that person specification. That way you have some kind of direction as to what jobs you should be doing in the meanwhile. Now, like I said before, getting an AP post should not be your main focus. 2 of my supervisors, who are clinical psychologists, have never worked as an AP before in their life. So that just shows you do not have to be an assistant psychologist in order to get onto the doctorate. So other roles that can get you onto the doctorate are things like support workers. Yes, a support worker role can get you onto the doctorate, so long as you have the relevant experiences to reflect on. But also roles like research assistant, PWP training, clinical associate psychologist, all of these roles can act as a stepping stone to get onto the doctorate. But I must note, with PWP, so a psychological wellbeing practitioner, and a clinical associate psychologist, both of these roles are kind of meant to be freestanding roles and not so much a stepping stone. although people do move from those roles onto the doctorate. So there is an expectation by employers of PWPs and CAPs that you will stay in that role for X amount of years. Now, I'm not too sure how many years that is, but you can find them in the job descriptions. Another thing which will be very helpful for you to do in preparation for applying to the doctorate is to get something published. Research publications especially. So can you get your dissertation published? Because if you can, then definitely do that. Now, I wasn't able to do that with my dissertation. I didn't even realise that was a thing, so that's what I'm telling you. But I think the way that you would go about this is approaching your academic supervisors at your uni or your dissertation supervisor to ask them whether they can support you in publishing your dissertation. And really it's a win-win situation because your supervisor's name will probably be on that publication as well, so they're going to love that. But also part of the doctorate application asks about publications that you have, so it's better that you can say something in that box rather than leaving it blank. Now, I didn't have a research publication, but what I did have was a reflective piece that I had written for the Psychologist way back when. I actually wrote a couple of articles for them, one about my undergrad placement and then another one about working as a personal assistant for someone with Down syndrome. Now, this was written while I was still doing my undergrad, so it's not my best work. I've grown a lot since then, but having that publication allowed me to see the importance of why we should publish as psychologists, and it gave me some discussion points to include in my application. So if you can do that instead, then do that. It's a lot easier than getting your research published as well. So now that you're getting your relevant experience, I think it's time for you to apply to the doctorate. Yes, even if you've only been in your role for 6 months or a year or however many years, but you don't think you're ready, I would still say that you should apply. Purely for practice, so that you can get your head in the game, so that you know what to expect, and it's not a waste of an application because you're going to know what to anticipate and you might even be called for an interview. I had this kind of perspective when I was doing my first application. I actually got a place on the doctorate. I never thought that would happen, but imagine if I didn't apply this year, I wouldn't have had a place. So you never know unless you try. Even if you do get rejected, the next year you apply, you will have more experience and you will have a better understanding of the application process and what they're looking for in candidates. So I would just highly recommend doing that purely for practice. So I think the main takeaway message here for people who have just graduated is to get that relevant experience. If you're watching this and you haven't graduated yet, then start getting that relevant experience now because it will set you up to be in a very good position when you do graduate. So yeah, a super short video again today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like if you liked it and subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye.